Why do some mysteries refuse to be solved, no matter how much technology advances or how many experts dig into them? Today, we're unraveling 10 U.S. mysteries from D.B. Cooper's daring mid-air escape to Amelia Earhart's vanishing flight that have left investigators and historians scratching their heads for decades. By the end, you'll see why these cases still baffle the world and what clues might finally unlock them. Hey, mystery lovers! Welcome back to Channel Name, the place where history's biggest puzzles come alive. If you're fascinated by secrets, unsolved crimes, and stories that blur the line between fact and legend, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the top 10 U.S. mysteries that even the best minds haven't been able to solve. Buckle up, this is going to be a ride through history like no other. On a chilly November evening in 1971, an ordinary Northwest Orient Airlines flight took off from Portland, Oregon, heading towards Seattle. The passengers on board thought it was going to be just another short, uneventful trip. But one man dressed in a neat suit, carrying a black briefcase, would turn this flight into the stuff of legends. He bought his ticket under the name Don Cooper, though the press would later misprint it as D.B. Cooper, a name that would forever etch itself into American mystery lore. As the plane ascended into the cold skies, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant. At first, she slipped it into her pocket, assuming it was someone asking for a date. But Cooper leaned closer and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note revealed his demand: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane for a getaway. Calm, polite, and strangely composed, Cooper didn't panic or threaten anyone unnecessarily. In fact, passengers sitting just a few seats away had no clue they were part of a hijacking. When the plane landed in Seattle, Cooper allowed all 36 passengers to leave safely in exchange for the money and parachutes. The FBI and airline complied, handing over the cash stacks of $20 bills, totaling $200,000, and the parachutes as requested. With only the flight crew left on board, the plane took off again, this time heading south toward Mexico City as per Cooper's instructions. But somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, as rain poured and winds gusted, Cooper made his move. He strapped the money to his body, lowered the plane's rear staircase, and leaped into the dark night with a parachute on his back. The crew felt the cabin pressure shift, heard the rush of wind, but when the plane landed safely hours later, Cooper was gone, vanished, nowhere to be found. What followed was one of the most intense manhunts in American history. The FBI scoured the forests, rivers, and mountains below the flight path, convinced Cooper had either to jump or was hiding somewhere nearby, but no body turned up. No parachute, no trace of Cooper himself. For years, theories flew in every direction. Some believed he was a seasoned paratrooper who pulled off the perfect escape. Others were sure he perished in the wilderness, his body lost to the elements. In 1980, nearly a decade later, a young boy camping with his family along the Columbia River stumbled upon decaying bundles of cash buried in the sand. The serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper. Yet this discovery only deepened the mystery. Why would Cooper bury the money? Did he lose it during the jump? Did he die before retrieving it? The clues seemed to raise more questions than answers. Over the years, the FBI investigated hundreds of suspects. At one point, they thought they had a strong lead with a man named Richard McCoy, who carried out a similar hijacking months later. But McCoy was ruled out when evidence didn't line up. Another suspect, Dwayne Weber, reportedly confessed to his wife on his deathbed that he was D.B. Cooper, but handwriting samples and other records told a different story. Even more suspects surfaced: ex-military men, career criminals, missing persons, but none could be definitively linked to the mysterious hijacker. By 2016, after 45 years of chasing shadows, the FBI officially closed the case, admitting they might never know the truth. Yet the legend of D.B. Cooper refuses to die. He has become a folk hero in American culture books, documentaries, even movies keep his story alive. Was he a brilliant criminal mastermind who escaped with a fortune? Or just a man who took a desperate leap and didn't survive the night? The mystery remains as open as the sky he vanished into, and every few years, someone claims to have new evidence, new theories, or even a deathbed confession. It was July 2nd, 1937. The sun had just begun to rise over the Pacific when one of the world's most celebrated pilots, Amelia Earhart, prepared for what would become the most fateful leg of her journey. She was already a global icon, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, a pioneer who defied the odds and shattered the barriers holding women back in aviation. Alongside her navigator, Fred Noonan, she had set out to achieve one final goal: to become the first woman to fly around the world. The journey had taken her across continents and oceans, but on this day, Amelia was facing the longest and most dangerous stretch, flying from New Guinea to a tiny speck in the Pacific Ocean called Howland Island. The Lockheed Electra airplane roared down the runway, lifting into the sky as the world listened in anticipation. This was supposed to be a triumph, the final chapter of a daring adventure that would inspire generations. But as the hours ticked by, radio operators began to notice something was wrong. Communication with Amelia's plane grew faint, crackling with static. Her last confirmed transmission came around 8:43 a.m. local time. In a calm but urgent voice, Amelia reported she was running low on fuel and couldn't find Howland Island. Then, nothing. Silence. The plane never arrived. What followed was one of the largest search efforts in history at the time. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard scoured thousands of square miles of open ocean, looking for any sign of the aircraft or its crew. Ships, planes, and entire fleets were deployed, but the Pacific is vast, and in 1937, navigation relied heavily on visual landmarks and primitive radio signals. After 2 weeks of searching, no trace was found. No wreckage, no bodies, just empty water stretching to the horizon. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart instantly became front-page news around the world. How could one of the best pilots, equipped with one of the most advanced aircraft of the era, vanish without a trace? Experts debated whether it was navigational error, bad weather, or simply running out of fuel before crashing into the ocean. But as days turned to weeks and no answers emerged, speculation began to spiral into theories, some plausible, others bordering on the unbelievable. One of the earliest and most persistent theories was that Amelia crashed into the sea near Howland Island and sank to the ocean floor. Given the depths in that region, finding the wreckage would have been nearly impossible with the technology of the time. Supporters of this theory argue that the Pacific has swallowed countless ships and planes over centuries, and Amelia's fate might be no different. But then came the whispers of something more mysterious. Some believed Amelia and Fred survived the crash but landed on an uninhabited island, living out their final days as castaways. Evidence surfaced decades later on Nikomoro Island, where researchers found pieces of metal, a woman's shoe, and even skeletal remains. Could this have been Amelia's final resting place? Scientists conducted DNA tests, analyzed artifacts, but the results have always been inconclusive, keeping the mystery alive. And then there's the most controversial theory of all, that Amelia Earhart was captured by the Japanese military. At the time, tensions in the Pacific were rising, with World War II looming on the horizon. Some claim she was on a secret U.S. government mission to spy on Japanese territories, and after crashing or landing in Japanese-held islands, she was taken prisoner. Eyewitnesses in the Marshall Islands even reported seeing a woman resembling Earhart under Japanese custody. But no official records have ever confirmed this, leaving the story trapped between fact and conspiracy. Over the decades, numerous expeditions have tried to solve the puzzle. Deep-sea submersibles have combed the ocean floor, archaeologists have excavated remote islands. Each time, tantalizing clues emerge: a scrap of metal here, a radio signal there, but never the final proof the world is waiting for. Amelia's disappearance has become more than just a historical event. It's a symbol of the unknown, a story that blends courage, tragedy, and mystery in equal measure. What makes this case even more gripping is Amelia herself. She wasn't just another pilot. She was a global celebrity, a best-selling author, a fashion icon, and a role model for women breaking barriers in the early 20th century. Her loss wasn't only the disappearance of a person. It felt like the vanishing of a dream, a hope for progress and possibility. That's why, even after more than 80 years, researchers, historians, and adventure seekers refuse to give up. They believe somewhere out there lies the answer, whether beneath the waves or on a forgotten island, and one day, the final piece of the puzzle might surface, ending decades of speculation and silence long before D.B. Cooper leaped into legend or Amelia Earhart vanished into the Pacific. There were other American mysteries that captured the world's imagination. Each one left behind just enough evidence to spark endless theories, yet never enough to bring closure. These are the kinds of puzzles that have haunted historians, baffled investigators, and turned ordinary places into symbols of the unknown. Take the Lost Colony of Roanoke, for instance. In 1587, a group of English settlers established what was supposed to be the first permanent English colony in the New World. On Roanoke Island off the coast of present-day North Carolina, John White, the colony's governor, returned to England to gather supplies, but when he finally made it back 3 years later, the entire settlement had vanished. Over 100 men, women, and children were simply gone. Houses were dismantled, belongings left behind, no signs of struggle or battle. The only clue was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. Historians have debated its meaning for centuries. Some believe the settlers moved to a nearby island of that name, assimilating with local tribes. Others suggest they were wiped out by disease, starvation, or conflict, but no definitive evidence has ever been found. Roanoke remains one of America's earliest and most enduring mysteries, a real-life story that reads like the opening chapter of a ghost novel. Then there's the legend of the Beale Ciphers. In the 1820s, a man named Thomas Beale supposedly buried a treasure chest filled with gold, silver, and jewels somewhere in Bedford County, Virginia. Before disappearing, he left behind 3 coded messages, one describing the treasure, one naming its heirs, and one giving its location. To this day, only one of the ciphers has been partially solved, revealing the contents of the treasure. The other 2? Still uncracked, despite countless attempts by professional cryptographers and treasure hunters. Some say the whole story is a hoax, but every year, people armed with maps, metal detectors, and dreams of fortune comb the hills of Virginia, hoping to find Beale's hidden riches. And who can forget the legend of the Oak Island Money Pit? Located in Nova Scotia, just off the coast of Canada, but closely tied to American lore, this mysterious shaft has been the site of treasure hunts for over 2 centuries. According to the story, teenagers discovered a strange depression in the ground in 1795 and began digging, only to find layers of wooden platforms every 10 feet. Treasure hunters over the years have uncovered clues like stone inscriptions, bits of metal, even coconut fibers far from any tropical shore, suggesting someone, centuries earlier, went to great lengths to hide something there. Theories range from pirate treasure to the lost manuscripts of Shakespeare, even to the Holy Grail itself. But each excavation ends the same way, with flooded tunnels, collapsed shafts, and no treasure in sight. Whatever lies at the bottom, if anything does, remains hidden, defying every attempt to solve the mystery. And then there are the tales that mix history with the supernatural, like the ghostly ship known as the Carol A. Deering. In 1921, this massive schooner was found run aground on the shores of North Carolina, its crew missing without a trace. The galley was set for a meal as if the crew had simply vanished mid-bite. Some blamed pirates, others suspected mutiny. A few even whispered about paranormal forces dragging sailors into another realm. The truth has never surfaced, leaving the Carol A. Deering as one of the eeriest maritime mysteries in American history. Another puzzle buried in history is the story of the Somerton Man of America, less known than its Australian counterpart, but equally baffling. In the late 1940s, authorities in Missouri discovered a man dead under mysterious circumstances, carrying coded messages and identification papers that led nowhere. His cause of death couldn't be determined. The cryptic notes suggested espionage or secret societies, but investigations hit dead ends. Decades later, questions still linger about who he was and what secrets died with him. Even artifacts have stirred controversy, like the Kensington runestone found in Minnesota in 1898. This massive stone slab bore runic inscriptions suggesting that Scandinavian explorers reached North America in the 14th century, long before Columbus. But was it genuine or an elaborate hoax carved by 19th century pranksters? Experts remain divided. with some claiming weathering patterns prove its authenticity, while others insist it is too suspicious to be real. These mysteries span centuries and subjects lost colonies, hidden treasures, vanishing ships, cryptic codes, and controversial artifacts, yet they all share one thing in common: an absence of definitive answers. Each clue discovered only seems to open more doors than it closes, inviting endless speculation from historians, conspiracy theorists, and amateur sleuths alike. The more time passes, the deeper the mysteries grow, as nature, time, and human error erase whatever evidence might once have existed. And so, from the shores of Roanoke to the hills of Virginia, from the windswept decks of ghost ships to the depths of supposed treasure pits, these stories continue to haunt America's historical landscape, reminding us that some chapters of the past remain stubbornly unread. What makes these unsolved mysteries so unforgettable isn't just the facts of the cases themselves, but the way they have seeped into American culture, shaping books, movies, songs, and even the way people think about history and adventure. From D.B. Cooper vanishing into the night sky to Amelia Earhart disappearing over the Pacific, these mysteries have become larger than life, transforming from historical events into cultural legends that refuse to fade with time. Take D.B. Cooper, for instance. His daring mid-air escape didn't just make headlines. It inspired movies, documentaries, and even songs. Hollywood turned his story into a symbol of the ultimate outlaw, cool, calm, and clever enough to outsmart the FBI and vanish without a trace. Decades after the hijacking, references to Cooper still pop up in TV shows, books, and music. People wear T-shirts with his name, host conventions in his honor, and debate wild theories online as if solving the case themselves would be the ultimate badge of honor. He's no longer just a man who hijacked a plane, he's a pop culture icon. A mystery wrapped in a suit and sunglasses, frozen forever in that moment before he leapt into the stormy night. Amelia Earhart's legacy took an even bigger leap. She was already a global celebrity before she disappeared, a pioneer who inspired women around the world to chase dreams society told them were impossible. When she vanished, it wasn't just a mystery. It was a cultural earthquake. Books romanticized her courage, movies portrayed her as both hero and enigma, and generations of pilots, men and women alike, have cited her as the reason they took to the skies. Her story fueled everything from serious historical investigations to speculative, science fiction tales imagining alternate fates, where she survived on some faraway island or was rescued by forces beyond our world. Even today, nearly a century later, she remains a symbol of daring ambition, a reminder that progress often comes with risks history can't always explain. The Lost Colony of Roanoke also left its mark on the American imagination. School children grow up hearing the story of the vanished settlers and that single haunting word carved into a post: Croatoan. Writers and filmmakers have turned it into ghost stories, horror tales, and even supernatural thrillers, suggesting everything from alien abductions to time travel. Artists have painted scenes of the abandoned colony, poets have written verses about its fate, and every few years, archaeologists announce new discoveries that promise answers but deliver only more questions. It's as if Roanoke has become less about finding the truth and more about the thrill of the unknown, a blank page on which every generation writes its own theories. The Beale Ciphers transformed from a possible treasure map into a cultural obsession. Treasure hunters still wander the hills of Virginia with metal detectors, convinced they'll be the one to crack the code. The mystery has inspired novels, puzzle games, and even Hollywood scripts, turning a set of dusty old papers into a centuries-long scavenger hunt. Whether or not the treasure exists almost doesn't matter anymore. The chase itself has become the story, a real-life adventure tale people can step into any time they pick up a shovel or study the ciphers by lantern light. The Oak Island Money Pit went even further, spawning entire TV series dedicated to the hunt for whatever lies buried beneath layers of wood, stone, and booby-trapped tunnels. Week after week, viewers tune in as modern treasure hunters dig, drill, and theorize, turning a centuries-old mystery into a pop culture phenomenon. Some watch hoping for gold, others for historical artifacts, but most just come for the thrill of watching a real-life puzzle unfold in slow motion. It's proof that the unknown doesn't just belong to history books, it can live on screen, pulling in millions of people who might never set foot on the island itself, yet feel like part of the search. Even the ghost ships, cryptic artifacts, and unsolved disappearances have inspired their own corners of culture. Songs reference the Carol A. Deering's Empty Decks. Novels weave tales around the Kensington runestone. And conspiracy theorists on podcasts debate secret societies, lost civilizations, and government cover-ups late into the night. These mysteries fuel creativity because they offer something rare in today's world, a story without an ending, a question without an answer. That might be the real reason they endure. In an age where satellites map every corner of the planet and information spreads instantly across the globe, true mysteries feel almost extinct. Yet these stories remain unsolved, stubbornly resisting explanations, giving people space to wonder, imagine, and create. They blur the line between history and legend, fact and folklore, reality and myth, until they become part of something bigger than the events themselves, a cultural treasure chest filled not with gold or answers, but with endless possibilities for storytellers, dreamers, and anyone drawn to the thrill of the unknown. And so, from D.B. Cooper leaping into the stormy night to Amelia Earhart vanishing over the Pacific, from lost colonies to coded treasures and ghostly ships, these mysteries remind us of one simple truth: no matter how much we discover, no matter how far technology takes us, the past still holds secrets it refuses to give up. Maybe that's why we keep coming back to these stories again and again. Because deep down, we're all searching for answers, for that one clue that will finally unlock the unknown. Until that day comes, these mysteries will continue to haunt our history, inspire our imagination, and keep us wondering what else lies hidden just beyond the edge of what we know.